the truth. We're live on Facebook and in the studios in, is it the northeast or Wales or wherever you are, Matt? You are.
I'm in the north. I'm in the north in these tumultuous times. North of the wall, Caroline. North of the wall.
North of the wall. Oh, right, okay. I've got
north
Matt,
of Adrian's wall.
I've got Matt Shaw on the line again. So when we get the final footage uploaded, you can see Matt in the flesh, but
in all my glory.
In all your glory, yeah, absolutely. We're still growing that beard, are we, Matt?
We are, Caroline. I'm only going to shave when we're out of complete lockdown and all the tyranny has come to a halt and all the truth is out there. So it might be a few inches left to go, yeah.
I think so. You sent me an article after last Saturday morning's show that we did, which we went live on Facebook as well. You sent me an article about the children shopping parents now.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
I didn't have the chance to read it. Did you actually read it at all?
Yeah, I went through it. So basically, this is something which I knew they were going to bring about, and I spoke to a gentleman, a guy who I work with one of the first funds that I dealt with in London back in 2015, 2016, and he's basically retired, greedy guy, nice though, and he basically said that this would happen. He was telling me a lot of things about Bin Laden. We got speaking about Bin Laden actually and the family and George Bush Senior and everything else, and he was telling, because I didn't know anything about that until 15. Not what really went on. The fact he was on the board of the board of advisors for the Bin Laden family and everything else, with John Major as well. Actually, John Major's very high up on it. But regards to that, he basically told me that this would happen in the next 7 or 8 years. They would use an excuse to keep your child in school as long as possible. Like it's happened anyway. If we go into like the women's liberation movement and how that was funded and everything else, and the kids being more dependent on the schools and whatnot, and the social side of it, that's already happened. You know, the kids now confide in school teachers and their friends at school more than their parents, you know, and that's all by design, more than they used to, say, 30, 40 years ago. And he said they want to detach the children as much from the parents as possible, so they don't respect them, they don't even love them, really, only really for material goods and whatnot, and they serve a purpose to get fed maybe once a day when they go home. And they will just shop them, and I couldn't believe when I read it, and I had to send it to you immediately. We'd only just been off the air about half an hour, hadn't we? And I could send it across to you. But this is something now they're gonna incentivize kids, and they're gonna say it in such a way that, oh, you know, it is, you know, mummy and daddy are very busy, you know, mummy and daddy are very busy. They haven't got time, but, you know, just in case we want to help them, they might need our help. Can you just let us know what, you know, if mummy and daddy needs help? Can you just let us know if they say this, or they might not want to tell us because they've got too much pride, or, you know, that won't allow them to tell us. They might feel a little bit guilty in asking for help, but you can help them and you can tell us. It's all going to be that kind of thing, you know. And, you know, kids do, like, you know, as much as my little ones love me, they're quick to grasp me up to their nan and the other half, you know, immediately.
Yeah.
Thinking they're doing the right thing, bless them. And it's exactly that. And that's what they're preying on, the swines. So...
yeah, years ago, children had great loyalty to their parents. But as you say, I mean, I had a girlfriend who, she was a mum of 2, but she loved her job so much, working for the university, that, you know, when she gave birth, she basically went straight back to work, working full time. And she would pay for childcare from pretty much, you know, after they'd had their breakfast till probably about maybe 6, 7 o'clock on a night, 5 days a week. And even when she had holiday, she didn't take them out of nursery. She would go on pamper sessions with girlfriends. So I think that the children had to basically make the best of a situation. And luckily there were children that fit in, didn't get aggressive with other children, which can sometimes be the case. And of course, this is the Tavistock Institute, isn't it? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Carol. I'm not sorry. Go on.
No, I'm just saying that this was all to do with the programming with the Tavistock Institute.
Absolutely, Tavistock. You hit the nail on the head. I was going to mention the name, and they've got their tentacles everywhere. Even I mean, they've come up again. I've been dealing with someone working with. Can't say anything at the moment because it's sort of semi-gagged, but I can't wait to speak about it. It'll probably be much later on in this year, regarding finance and something in the UK. But yeah, their names cropped up. But I was going to say the kids, that's their world. It becomes their shell. I think they said once you spend, I think it's 10 days or 11 or 12 days with children, they become adorned to you. I read a book, it's a mind consciousness book. I forget the author actually. I'll post it later. And he said about that. It's 12 days, specific amount of hours. I think it's about 70 hours or somewhat. If you give them your complete undivided attention, you become their god. And that's under the age of 8. By the age of 8, they start to, this is why Jews and whatnot say they can make the perfect specimen by the age of 7, because they're completely malleable really until that age, until they get on, until the other circuits in their brain start building, they create their own minds, etc. But I've seen it with my nephew. He completely changed at 8 years old. So this is why they're making things younger and younger on the children. They're getting them to have more responsibility. They're getting them to tell them more things by a certain age and working on them. This is why they want they're going to have the primary schools open. They want to inoculate them at an earlier age, specifically now with the HPV, human papillomavirus vaccinations. That complete sham. Diane Harper came out about it and said, I cannot sleep at night. I shouldn't have spearheaded those trials. They were pushed forward. Things about the trials were thrown out. Things that didn't fit the bill that we wanted, and misconfigurations in the analysis and whatnot. And it never came. I never saw the light of day because they want the children, starting with girls at say 12 to 14 having their jabs. They want them. They want boys having them now, which is insane, and they want them having them younger and younger. And there's schools in the US that want them having them at age 5, So in kindergarten, it's absolutely insane because they know by the age of 8 or 9, they're less, they can be less programmed, if you like. They can be completely programmed by the age of 8. So, yeah, I don't like it. When they pick on the kids, that gets me riled up, Caroline, and I start to go into stealth daddy mode. You leave the kids alone.
Well, I've interviewed quite a few people now who've had their children removed from them by the family courts, and they find that when the children get to a certain age, they're almost bribed to stay with the foster parents and say, well, can your parents afford Nike trainers or what have you? And if the parents have got so many children, they find it very difficult to compete, and they are often removed from the parents for totally spurious reasons. Totally. So yeah, the children are a big problem from our perspective because we are their guardians, and that's what God put the relationship together for. And of course, there's always been this since I was teenagers, early 20s, that both parents should be going out to work. And for me, I actually stopped after I'd had my first child. I went back and did a few weeks, and then that was it. And I was seen as a very strange person for doing what I believed was the right thing. Now, I put a comment on Facebook earlier today, and I said I was going live at midday. I didn't say who I was going to be with, but somebody put a link onto a video of Simon Parks. Have you seen this, Caroline? And I thought, well, maybe it's something we could talk about because there are at least 3 videos now circulating, losing Simon's any credibility that he may or may not have had. And I'll put my hand up here. When I fronted quite a big channel here in the UK, I
Yeah.
did actually interview Simon Parks in June 2018.
Yeah.
Thankfully, that video is no longer. There's sometimes a benefit when people take your videos down. Sometimes it's God's way of saying, "Well, that wasn't a good one, was it?" And I mean,
Why was that? Go on. What was? I never really saw it in its full. What was so?
well, I went to this Awake and Aware 2-day course, and
Right.
I was being filmed, interviewing
So,
people who'd
was he
seen
doing it?
UFOs.
Was he hosting it? Was he hosting it or?
No, he was. I don't know whether he might have been one of the speakers, but I was asked. I was basically told to interview this person, that person, and so on. So Simon was on the list to be interviewed, and because he'd been a Labour councillor, I I was obviously at that time really concerned about Brexit. And
Yeah.
I have to say, it was probably one of the most disappointing conversations that I've ever
Really?
had filmed. And
Really?
I've never watched his films before or since, but I'm bombarded at the minute with Simon Parks and Charlie Ward.
Yeah, that's all I'm getting in my inbox, Caroline. I'm get off people now and fully fledged truthers, and they're good friends of mine. Check this out. I'm like, what? Honestly, dozens a week, and I'll just mention it. Like I think you mentioned it in the status the other. This and again, I'll say it again. I'm not trying to. This is why I love you, Caroline, because I trust you more than most, and you just say it how it is. You don't give two buggers, and you are purely searching for the truth. And that's what I absolutely love. And this is what I've had people filter away from me the last few months because they've put their work first. They've put the fear of, their in-laws finding out about what they're getting into and all this conspiracy stuff before the truth. And it's pathetic. And I think you mentioned it the other day. You see, you don't care anymore. We can't think about our work. Yeah, I'm sorry. For 10 years now, I've not worried about what my family think or friends, and I've had other friends of friends fall away because I know the truth. Sometimes I've been wrong, but when you know certain things, and you can't unknow them. And this has gone on now far too long, and we are where we are. And I had a friend after the last one we did inbox me say, Matt, you need to knock this conspiracy stuff on the head. I watched your interview with Caroline. I'll send you the message, and I haven't responded, and I thought, how can you say any of this is conspiracy any longer? It absolutely baffles me to say that anything that we're speaking about right now is conspiracy when we're actually living it. And that scares me because this is an intelligent guy I used to work with, I used to do business with years ago, and I know he's not stupid, and he's a good guy, and I don't know whether he was trying to condescend me a little bit. I'm not sure, but it was in bad taste, I found, really. And he said I didn't look very well as well. He said, you don't look very well. Oh, you cheeky sod. It's a double neg. But I said, I've had a few sleepless nights this year, but I said, basically, look, Charlie Ward, and I'll say it how it is. I've said from the outset, I've watched one or two of his videos, and I've said this, what's the fuss about? And I hate mentioning other people on this because this is a massive journey and we need as many people speaking the truth. But let me tell you exactly how all this gets. I've been the middleman in business several times and trying to mediate different people together, companies with an investor or investor with this idea and this, that, and the other. And a lot of the time it falls down because of one ego. It falls down because someone said something they took the wrong way, or it purely is because they don't like the person, where they're from, religion or race or things or whatever. And that's what I have found in business. And it's the same in this world. A lot of people are speaking the truth now, but there's variance to it. And it goes from this. And I'm going to name names now because I don't give a shit anymore, Karen. Like you said, love, it's gone past that point now, right? There's Anna Breeze has come out, right? She was seeing one of my best friends. He's purely on the truth. He's a bit worried about his work. That's why he hasn't gone full blown on, doing videos and whatnot. And he does different names. He doesn't want his real name being out there. Someone said she's a shill. She's definitely not a shill, I guarantee you. But she's got a bit of ego, and her aim is to get 1 million followers. She wants to make money full-time out of the truth movement. So, but at the same time, she will put herself out there where others wouldn't. So is that a good thing or bad thing? Well, for me, it's good because she's getting truth out there. She's getting people on her channel to speak the truth. And it's my next door neighbour said, "Have you heard of Anna Breeze?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I know, yeah, but wow, he was believing in all this at the start of lockdown. So that's a good thing. But she's not coming from a place of full truth. But does it matter if she can wake up 50,000 people? So you've got to, that's what you turn into. Charlie Ward, again, ego, says he knows a lot of people. And when I was on with Roy Davis the other night, again, great guy, knows a lot of stuff. I'm going to be on with him on Monday. He brought him up because he'd done an interview with Charlie Ward. If you guys want to check it out, it's Roy Davis and Charlie Ward. And he said, I thought he'd be bigging Charlie Ward up after his chat, But he basically said, guys like Charlie Ward, they say certain things. They get this intel from so-and-so. And this is what's going to happen next week with Q. This is what's going to happen next week in Washington. I'm like, he said, that makes me feel very wary when people start saying that, because how the hell can you have the inside track on one of the biggest military operations if you believe it's all going to happen? How is someone sat in their home, like Greg Hallett? I'm sorry, I'll name his name as well. You're the future king of England. You're taking down the royals. You're the full lineage. You're going to be king. You've got people calling you up, giving you intel. You're going to be in charge of the world's monetary finance, of the entire IMF, if you like. And you're going to be in charge of the new reset, as he said, the new age. And you're asking people to donate money from someone's home, some single mum's home. I really don't want to be. I'm just sick of holding back, to be honest, Caroline. And this is what a lot of people are out for their own ends. They are speaking truths, but they're out for their own ends. And the same with Charlie Ward. He speaks like he knows it all, when at the moment, none of us know it all. We can't, He speaks a lot of things like fact. Same with Robert David Steele, Sasha Stone, all these people. They come across like gods. And for me, if you're trying to come across like a god, you've got this intel, you're that, well, there we are then. You might as well go and be president because you know it all. You know everybody that knows everything. Crack on. You're the arbiter of truth now, so we all must obey you. And it's the same with this guy. What's his name? Sorry. His name's gone from me, Caroline.
Parks.
Simon Parks. Yeah, Parks. I didn't even know his story. I didn't even know he was a counsellor. But he was saying his mum was this, I don't even know, this green 9-footed alien or whatever. Yeah, so now people are baiting on every word of his, when he said that's how he grew up. I mean, this is where we're at. This is 2021 and people are paying homage to a guy that said he was brought up by aliens. Look, they exist. Other dimensional entities exist. And I believe that. I do believe that. I'll be completely honest. I came into contact. I saw something in my old flat in Cardiff Bay. That's why I moved from there, Caroline. It was back in 2013. It was something in my room. It was not very good. It woke me up. And this was in Cardiff Bay. And it was very weird. Something coming towards me. And I've never seen anything before in my life. I've always wanted to as a child, but I never did. But people always say, I saw this, I saw that. And I'm like, I've never seen anything. But I did I don't know the actual date. It was the end of November 2013. And I moved early 2014 because it was just, I couldn't sleep in the same room anymore. That was weird, whatever. I don't know how you explain it. It was something. I firmly believe, I looked at Max Spears. I've looked into a lot of this. I've been to Peru. I've been to museums where the average traveler doesn't go. The average gringo doesn't advance upon. And I've been in various other countries as well, different places, and looked at the tablets and the testimonies from the elders in Asia. I've been to different places, and there are things. But the Nazca lines, for instance, I took a plane down right from, we were in Puno, just after Lake Titicaca. I've just come from Bolivia. Didn't make it to the salt flats. I got sick and didn't go, but I went down to Nazca again. Like, how do you test the NASCAR lines, you've got there 2 kilometers of huge carvings in the land, and you can only see the shape of them unless you're about 1,000, 1,500 feet in the air. You could only really navigate that and direct that if a craft was up above 2,000 feet in the air. And there are things out there, but when people are coming across like Parks saying the things he's saying, like Cliff High said, I sent you the video, and I hold Cliff High in very high esteem. He's a genius. He's got no ego. He doesn't go for followers. He doesn't really care. He puts his videos out unedited. Like the first 5 minutes of his videos are terrible because you can't even hear him. He's fiddling with his microphone. And I love that because it's real, you know. And he just said the same thing. It's dangerous because when you go into the millions or hundreds of thousands or millions of views and you're saying things like fact and you're saying the things that they're saying, it's bloody well dangerous because what did they say? Like in the US, whenever the job numbers or unemployment falls below a certain rate, I think for every 1% it falls, there's up to 7,000, 8,000 people actually die. And that's a fact. And that was in the movie on the Big Short or the Big Drop or whatever it was called. And that's a fact. And these things, if millions of people are following someone and they're saying specific things and they're going to carry out then things that they've said, you're going to get people coming a cropper, and it's dangerous. You know, you don't
Can I just interrupt you there, because that just reminded me, because if I don't say it, I'll probably forget about it. It reminded me of the way that Nigel Farage has been recently. I mean, I've known for a very, very, very long time the truth about the Fifth Column Brigade, and you may have mentioned people there that I would say categorically are Fifth Columnists, because you see, you know, when you come from the BBC, for example, you have access to a network of people that have also jumped through psychological hoops and know what to talk about and not necessarily always speak from here. You know, you mentioned about figures. I never had the beauty of having huge figures because people would subscribe to my channel and then they would find themselves unsubscribed. And what the Parks, I was going to say about Nigel Farage, you know, he has totally changed tack, you know, with the Tony Blair and the vaccinations. Now, when I say change tack, we knew the insiders. When I say insiders, we know the truth, not because we sit at that table, but we've seen politicians, how they behave and pretend they're all working against each other, but then they'll all go down to the pub afterwards and they're given a script. They're all actors and actresses, and this is what we have to be aware of. That I was actually on an Australian conference call yesterday, and of course they're so far away. They were giving me a list of all the names and who I felt were Fifth Columnists, and I sort of gave them concrete supporting evidence, really, and then they said, well, okay then, so who's genuine? And there was this deathly silence because I couldn't think of anybody else out there that wasn't involved in either a crowdfunding, which had gone totally belly up, that wasn't looking for subscribers, that wasn't selling merchandise with their face on it, that wasn't, do you know what I mean, or didn't have, you know, that video I sent you this morning, somebody posted on my timeline this morning, and it was showing an interview with Charlie Ward and Simon Parks, and basically the guy who is commentating, I only saw 2 minutes and it's 57 minutes long. I haven't got time to go through this in great detail, because once I know, I know.
Exactly.
But they were showing that the numbers, because if they're these people, when you say about numbers, the chances are, especially if they come from the BBC, their numbers are working. The elites can make their numbers go into the millions, and that's what that guy was showing on that video. He says, well, look at the number of watchers of Simon Parks. This video's only been released 24 hours and it's like in the millions. And that reminds me, because when I went onto Charlie Ward's video page, because somebody wanted to, he wanted my opinion, and I thought, oh no, what is the point? When you know, you know. But anyway, so I clicked on for the first 2 minutes, and he has his beautiful son saying Jesus loves you, which for me, I find that quite, I wouldn't bring my children into that situation. What?
Charlie Ward now.
This is Charlie Ward.
This video, saw that,
And then it says on the website, 8 million subscribers. I'm sure it's a huge number. And I'm thinking, well, hang on, a year ago, you had barely 200 views per video. So how have you gone from 200 views to 8 million on this website? It just doesn't. They literally can take things up and down and shake it all around.
Absolutely, yeah. It's all algorithms, and it's like Simon Parkes. Nothing's changed on his. He's still in the living room with his cat, and nothing's really changed there to really warrant that kind of rise. Like the guy said in the video, he said, "Look, it's been flat through 19, 20, slight uptick in October, November, and then all of a sudden, it got to 100,000. Now it's into the millions." Yes, he's saying certain things could herald people sharing it more. Oh, look at it, because I'm getting it more in my inbox now, and people going, check this. And like you, Caroline, I haven't got time in the day to sit down and watch countless 24-minute videos. There's only so many time in the day you've got, but like you said, when you know, you don't need to go any further. But I will at some point. Someone said not to look at his video because he'll try and hypnotize you. So that's a bit way out, I know, but I've been told that by someone. I won't go into that, but
he ought to just stick with his crayons. That's all I would say.
Yeah, but it's like the AI thing. I said to you before, I've touched on this before. For anyone that doesn't remember this, the AI Sophia, and I'll say it again, the AI Sophia, when that was onboarded to the net, I think it was in 2017, May sometime 2017, Sophia AI, I should know, it's my daughter's name. It means, wisdom, the goddess of wisdom and knowledge. Well, of course, Sophia into the new age, into the new 2030 and beyond age, will be the all-encompassing woman and queen of wisdom, god of wisdom and knowledge, because she'll hoard it from everybody, because it's on the blockchain. So like WhatsApp now, that's updating its thing, isn't it? People are changing it from WhatsApp to Signal and whatnot. So anything, if you remain on WhatsApp, if you're on Facebook or Twitter, that will then be literally sucking all that information out and honing that in. Then eventually that will develop from artificial intelligence to general intelligence. So it will take on a world of itself all that information. It won't be reactive anymore in just storing that information. It will take on a consciousness in the way we write things. You can tell sometimes when you get a message, can't you? There's a tone to it. Yeah. There's a tone to messages. There's obviously question marks. You know what are questions, and there's statements with the exclamation marks. And you know what is sometimes even tongue-in-cheek. If you read enough of conversations with people over several months, you'll begin to realize personalities in the conversation. And that's what her job is, to realize and differentiate types of conversation to predict then future analysis, really, and to predict future events. But not only to predict that, to hoard it and to create your cloud, which was what they want in 2030. They want us walking down. I said, the Great Reset, I don't need to read any more books than that. Apocalypse 2027 and Jim Rickard's as well, The Death of Money. All these books, once you read about 7 or 8 of these books, you know the picture pretty much. You can put your own picture together from it. And then with what's coming out, you think, right, that links up with that. Right, get it now. That is to do. And it's just that. She was given citizenship of Saudi Arabia, so artificial intelligence could be taxed like a citizen, because you need to be a citizen to be taxed. So it's that was their sort of blueprint, and that was their template then for setting the bar for taxing robots, because they want robots obviously replacing us, but they need a way to tax them on the blockchain. So that is what's being set up now for the fourth, as Schwab puts it, the fourth industrial revolution, and they want our own bubbles. So for instance, now in 10 years, Caroline, we'll walk down the street, I'll pop on down the M4, I'll pull over for a coffee in the Super Costa gravitational drive-through. I'll be there. I'll nip into Swindon. I'll be walking past you, but we'll have our own bubbles in the 5G world. And because me and you in the pre-industrial, fourth industrial world had our different views and our provoking mindsets, if you like, and we had things in common, both our clouds would detect that, and it will steer us in the other direction, so we wouldn't come into contact. So
we wouldn't come into contact with like-minded people.
Yeah, because what they'll analyze how you were in the previous world. So say I'm walking down, the amount of people I've just met in the street, Caroline. Like I'll tell you this. Right? I met a guy in Cardiff. I was speaking to an homeless person. He was protesting about all the pedos in Cardiff and whatnot, and he'd been to jail. And I went up to him. I said, look, I said, be careful what you're shouting. It'll just. He said, I don't care. I've been abused in prison and this, that, and the other. I said, right. I said, look. I said, da 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 da. Do you want a coffee? This, that, and the other. He went, no, I'm all right. See you later. Whatever. But this guy came up to me who was talking to him as well. Started to chat to him as well, and he was Israeli. And he just started to walk with me back into town, and we got talking. And he said, you know what it's all about, don't you? In Israel and the Gaza and whatnot. He said it's all portals. They're fighting over portals. So I got my phone out, starting to record, and he went, please don't record me. And I said, look, I apologise, because I was trying to record on the sly, and he clocked me straight away. And I said, I do apologise, but I think I wanted to get this information on camera, and I didn't think you'd allow me to. I said, I really do apologise. But we sort of made up then. We fell out a little bit. We made up, and then he just went on his way. But that's random. That's nature, right? Bumping into. So, like, how the heck would I have met that guy before? Just randomly bump. Well, if he said was true, I don't know. But he definitely we shared common interests. And I've met people, I'm not really one for the pub, but I've met people even just, out in coffee shops. You can get talking. A few of us were talking before in a cafe in Cardiff. But Q stuff, we'd meet up. Whenever I was in Wales, I'd nip to Cardiff and meet them on a Sunday morning. And a guy came over, look, lads, do you know what? Funny you should say that. I was only speaking to my guy who works at da-da-da-da-da, and then it goes from there, right? Then that builds. Shared his number, give us his email. We're now in touch. But they don't want that happening in the new world. So they want our bubbles to detect a certain defector, if you like, and think, right, they've got potential. If they get together and communicate, we don't want that. That's not good for the new world. So they'll just make sure we never cross paths. And
that's really interesting. Now, in which case then, the fact is, fast forward to June, and they forecast that we will be 90% down on shops, restaurants, cafes, etc. So we won't have pretty much life at all, regardless of what happens with the vaccinations.
That's in June. Is that what they said in June, really?
Yeah, if it's closed, because they're talking about leaving the pubs as well till the very last moment. So this means that we're all online, that they're checking all our messages and Zoom calls, etc., etc. Can you explain to people at home, because I've, some of these campaign groups that have got people to go down to Trafalgar Square, they have associations, and the people involved, the presenters, the actors, are also involved with artificial intelligence. So how would that impact? What is their purpose of honey trapping people down to Trafalgar Square, for example, and getting those people in one place? Is it just the collection of the positive energy that can be used for the underground portals, or is it something else?
I immediately said this. I said, look, when I saw the Trafalgar Square, Karen, I would have gone to at least two of them. Stuff that happened to me last year. I wasn't available for a couple of months. I had to be away and what have you. But I definitely would have made at least two of them, and I would have done. But where they are in Trafalgar Square are very, very, I wouldn't even call them ley lines, but they're very energetic lines, and they pierce many parts of the UK. And they're going right under Trafalgar Square, and they go right down through Buckingham Palace to where they've got the big statue outside Buckingham Palace gates and whatnot. And the Queen has underground tunnels there to ship her off to the airports on bullet trains and whatnot. And that's all there. And I do believe that's a big harvester there, because a lot of people naturally would be naturally would be attracted to go, who've got good energy, they want the good for humanity, and they're good souls. And that's what they want. They want to harness good energy. Now, it's getting a bit deep here, but
it's true, though.
Yeah, it is true. It's true, and people have got to wake up to it, because we can't tippy-toe around anymore. We're too late in the game to try and say, oh, we better, the people that run this world work for overlords from another dimension. And look, I know that sounds completely insane, but I'm not an idiot, and I'm not out there to try and get views. I haven't even really got a proper channel, Carol. I don't really care. But the amount of research I've done over the last 10 years is another level. It's been to the detriment of my previous relationship. It's been terrible. I almost had a nervous breakdown 6 years ago. Lost my money 5, 6 years ago. It affected my business, my previous hedge fund, and but I do know it's got me to where I am today to keep a level head during this time. And these people that work for them need to harvest energy. This is why this is why they keep the football going, Caroline. This is why they keep these things going. Why aren't people incensed that 22 men running around kicking a ball over a white line from different households? And you've got the managers, coaches, you've got all the staff, the physios. You're talking hundreds of people per game congregating for one game, and there's dozens a week, hundreds a week going on, professional in all the leagues, when we can't go and visit our family in another house. Or, it's insane. So they're harvesting that on Trafalgar Square. That is without a shadow of a doubt. They also do it in Blackpool, the Golden Mile. There's one that runs through down there as well, under the Tower Ballroom. And it goes down under Coney Island. I don't know if anyone knows Blackpool well. I used to go there as a kid when I was young, for a week in August. I used to absolutely love it. And there are tunnels down there under Coney Island. There's some marvellous research been done on that. Coney Island, up through the tower towards Fleetwood. And those are those specific energy lines that they harvest on. And they all do all sorts on those energy lines. It can be gatherings, it can be protests, it can be, I don't even like saying the words, but it can be children being sacrificed. And that's what they do to keep going. And these provocateurs, look, Shimarani, I met Mark Steele in February. I went to his seminar. I put off a trip to go there, so I wanted to see what the deal was. He seems genuine to me when you meet him in real life. He's got him and his brother.
Did you just repeat that? Until you meet him in real life.
Well, it's something I can't put my finger on about him. I gave him a lot of credit, and I was going to do a joint seminar with him back in December. But look, there's something off. Shimarani, there's one or two people working there that are genuinely for the cause. But again, it gets washed, you see, because like I said before, people, where there's different variants of the truth, people will take bits of it, they'll do an interview, they'll think that they'll give that person extra credit for speaking certain truths. When those certain truths are spoken, the rest of what they say, they'll just take on the chin and say, oh, well, yeah, he believes a bit of that as well. And, it's like being in a relationship, it's like saying, oh, well, he's mostly good, he's slightly annoying, he leaves the pans out and this, that and the other. But honestly, he's good with the kids, But you'll let the 40% of the crap go. And this is what's happening in the truth world. You'll let the 40% of the rubbish slide for 60% of the truth. Or the other way around, 40% of the truth for 60. Or it may even be the 80-20 rule. And this is it's becoming very muddied, because you've got people out for their own ends, interviewing people that are semi-truth, but also out for their own ends. You've got then other people speaking a lot of the truth, but then some of that person might not believe. And it's getting very watered down now. And this is why all of us have got to have discernment and keep a level head.
To be honest, this is the end times, and the discernment side is because we have come so far away from the truth for such a long time, then people have lacked discernment. And that's why, as you know, I flew over to Australia just over a year ago. Somebody paid for my flight because he was been watching my videos, and he was really concerned about, he'd started studying the Jesuit Bible, and he'd also put what do you call it, a notice of treason against his archbishop, and he wanted to show me round some of the churches in that particular area of Australia, and to show the the Jesuit symbology in the churches over there, which is the Church of Australia essentially, and then you get the Vatican influence as well. So that's why, since that point, there was a real reason why I had to go there. And people might at first have thought, oh, Caroline, people do all sorts of things with their fingers. Well, no, they don't. Not when they get to our age. We're not like 5 years of age trying to do a little, those shadow, when you had shadow. I'm not going to do it because I'll get Photoshop, I'll get snapped at. But if I did something with your fingers, like as if it's a rabbit or something against the wall. The shadows you used to people.
All that kind of stuff.
Well, people don't do that when they're like 30, 40, 50. I mean, crikey. I mean, we've all grown up. In fact, I couldn't even remember having done that. It was so long ago. But you just don't do that. But people are now. I stuck to my guns. People are now sending me videos. I mean, somebody sent me a Trump video yesterday, and of course I put a sign up saying, please, if anybody sends me any more Trump and Biden stuff, I may block you, because you are now distracting me from my mission. And but the reason why that person sent it was because there was some event and the guy was speaking, and then he turned around and it was really, really clear. And I don't think it could have been Photoshop. But there was about 3 or 4 people, men, behind him, stood with first finger to first finger and thumb to thumb. The like the kite. Oh, don't do that! Don't do that!
Sorry.
So so they were doing that, and then the guy totally changed his line of.
Oh, yeah, seen it. Yeah,
seen it. Yeah. So it is important, and
I didn't even.
Yeah. But people have got to realise. People have got to realise that.
Sorry,
This is why they do it. And then we had one of those people you've mentioned earlier, and she was sipping water as well as giving a whole load of flannel. And the sipping the water is a Freemasonry Jesuit type of because I sent it off to have it checked out by some churchgoers, and they said no, it's this honest symbology that you've got to all be aware of, because and this goes back to when Satan was on Mount Hermon and made a pact to say that he had to tell the people what he had planned. So if you're using these actors and actresses, of which we can mention all the big ones as well, and people say, oh well, he told a lot of truth. And I think well, because he's getting his orders from the people who's orchestrating, who's written the plot. So of course they're accurate. So that's why when I put something up and say, well, I think there could be rationing soon, and they say, well, it hasn't happened yet. And I'm thinking, yeah, I know, but I know that books have been printed. I don't sit at the table. I haven't been given my instructions from the dark side as to exactly when that's going to happen. And I mean, it took me back to about 3 years ago, actually, because I launched something called, for people who've watching for the first time, I stood for Parliament in 2015. And then I became the Brexit campaign manager for the referendum in 2015, 2016. Yeah. So I've forgotten what I was going to say now. This is great, isn't it? Yes, PESCO Gate. I launched something called PESCO Gate, Permanent Structured Cooperation. So I'd seen these tweets. It was about October 2017. And I realised that we were losing our military. So what I did was I had a whole network of people through email, and I produced a template letter, and so for them to send to their own MPs, because what they do is in politics they divide us into our constituencies, and they have this law, if you like, their own law, that they will only generally, MPs will only generally respond to people who live in their constituency.
Yeah, that's very, yeah.
So there's dividers that way. So it was interesting. So all these people were sending this particular template letter to say, hey, you know, there's Pesco Gate, and they're all signing up, and we could be signing up, and thought we were leaving the European Union, and why we're part of this, and then there was visions of the European army, etc., etc. So I went and approached, because by that time I was not a member of any political party. I'd left it all behind. And I'd approached this leader, got nowhere. I'd approached this military person, got nowhere. These are people who are in the public eye. And that's when I started really, really understanding. And when you say these people aren't shills or what have you, well, they all are, because they're basically working to the dark side script. So they're told. So it wasn't for another year that some of these people actually started opening up about permanent structured cooperation. But a year had passed, and then people would send me their videos, and I said, but I covered this a year ago. Hello, I did approach these people. And in fact, one military guy who's got letters after his name and has also been outed, he basically said to me, the people aren't interested in military unification. And I'm thinking, oh, really? Really? And that's the sort of, this is what I mean by controlled opposition. I covered it all. I've done it all. And then we even named and shamed MPs on a YouTube channel. But of course, the dark side knows that ultimately the Conservative HQ, government HQ, is basically going to catch up, and eventually they produce a standard template to hit back at the template that I whopped off to them in the first place. I mean, you know, I said to one MP, I said, oh, what a terrible state of affairs, you know, with your MPs, and, you know, you've got so many sex offenders in Parliament. And he said, oh, don't talk rubbish, Caroline. And then I said, well, how's so-and-so? It's the guy who was involved in that coke parties and male prostitutes. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. Was that in Pimlico or something?
Yeah, it's the guy in the Midlands area, shall we say. And it was on the front page, you know, he did the newspapers had done a sting. But it doesn't stop him from getting his MP's salary. You know, he couldn't face trial. He couldn't face trial. And that was the thing. They said, oh, he's too ill to face trial.
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean now, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Oh, got you now. I've caught up. But yeah, no, like I was saying about Anna Brees, no shill, but here's an example of her. Because she's not in for the 100% truth, she'll do interviews like with Simon Dolan and who are more than questionable. But because he's got a bigger following, she wants to latch onto that bigger following and will forego anything bad potentially that people might say, look, don't trust him for this reason, he's got that government contract, this, that and the other, so why is he saying? She'll put that to one bed because she has more of a vested interest in the other side. But at the same time, some truths are being spoken. So, well, it's a win-win then, isn't it? And that's
from their perspective. But that reminds me of when I fronted this big YouTube channel, and all the fifth columnists were very happy to be interviewed by me. And I thought, I said, this is good, isn't it? I didn't know there were fifth columnists, but it was only subsequent weeks and months when I left that channel. And then it's almost like the drawbridges, or everybody's drawbridges go up. Now I say, are you not available? Or and it's like I became a leper. So then they have to send somebody else in and say, right, Caroline, do you want to come onto our channel? And that's how they do it. They control you. You are working under some sort of umbrella. So there's people like Simon Dolan. He would never want to be interviewed by me because I would just tear him to shreds. And equally so, I wouldn't want to interview these people because it's
energetically not
absolutely. So but I have interviewed people like Kate Shimarani and Mark Steele in the past, and it was due to my interview with Kate Shimarani last April that I got my first black mark from YouTube, because she said some really outrageous stuff, I guess. And so it was the first time I was always so careful on YouTube, because you only have 3 chances.
This
And
is it,
then,
yeah.
and she said some outrageous stuff, and then YouTube comes back, and it could be the dark side saying to YouTube, right, we've sent somebody in to try to discredit Caroline's YouTube channel in the way of, right, we're going to get a black mark against her.
Right, so that was the intention more so, right,
well,
yes.
You never know, do you? I mean, because it's like, why did that happen? But in the intervening time, the thing is with YouTube, it's quite interesting from people putting comments up about what's going on, because I'm not following any of these people, because I can spot them off. Well, I'd like to think I can spot them a mile away these days, but, you know, there's always going to be one.
Yeah, I got taken in with Shimarani from when she first started speaking, because they were, to me, out-and-out truths, you know? But it became clearer further on, and when I saw her, which she looked a lot different on stage at that first Trafalgar one, or the second one, and you know, she was riling up the crowd, you know? Did you notice when she was riling up David Icke, she'd go to Mark Steele when they had the thing out, you know? Saying, oh, look, we're all being electrocuted, we're all being fried to death. Well, get out of there then. If you're all being fried, what are you standing there for? Go somewhere else, you know.
Is that what she said?
Yeah, well, he got out his. I mean, I've got one here somewhere. Where's the? I mean, I took it to Germany with me. I've always got one for the little one as well. It's where the geologist to the house, you know, just to go through everything and whatnot. And yeah, you've got to watch it. You've got to be careful with these towers. But she was riling everybody up. You know, she was just wanting that furore, and that seemed to be more important on the day. Because really, after it, well, what happened then? Some people got arrested, and everyone went home. You know, that was it. And I don't want to sound cynical there. I really don't. But that is not the way how we win this. It really ain't. It really ain't. I know people go, well, what's your solution then? I've said the solutions before, and they're very, very subtle. You don't give your energy to these people. You turn off the news. You don't wear your mask. You don't, you know, the altercations I've come up against, and sometimes I've been abrupt, sometimes I've been very abrasive, and other times I've been calm. It all depends. And the calm does seem to win. You know, I'm doing my meditation, Caroline. Sometimes it's hard to keep calm, but you've got to carry on, right? That's what they say. And it does. You know, one of the shamans told me in Peru, he said, when you're confronted by evil, and I'm not talking about people confronting you about your masks, I'm really evil. He said, you embrace it, and that's how you dissipate evil. Because evil has no power at all. They're using our power against us. That's all evil does. They've got zero power.
Well, listen to this then. So, the mark of the beast. Now, this is a guy. I'm just going to show you this guy.
Yeah.
This guy is a guy called David Hathaway.
Oh, please. My brother used to send him money. Oh, my God. Go on.
Did he?
Yeah, go on.
Oh, right, okay. Well, he's written an article, and, you know, people can pick and choose, and I did sort of tag quite a few Christians into this video link this morning, or this afternoon, and there is a page called The Mark of the Beast, and again, you know, it's a case of picking out the truth, and it's not for me to say one way or the other, but it does say, a great tribulation is coming. Even unbelievers have heard of the mark of the beast in Revelation 13. Revelation 14:9-11 is so clear. If you don't have the mark of the beast, you cannot buy or sell. How will we then live? But if you have the mark of the beast, you cannot enter the kingdom. As Bible-believing Christians, we also know that there is a rapture of the church coming, a resurrection of the living and the dead, when we will be caught up out of this earth to meet Jesus in the air. And that's on 1 Thessalonians 4:14-17. This fills us with the same hope and expectation Jesus had, who for the joy set before him endured the cross. But it basically goes on, but we all agree that Jesus repeatedly warns us, let no man deceive you. Matthew 24:4. that's the truth is, in the end will come unexpectedly, as it did for the sinners in Noah's day, when God saved only a few people, 8 in all. The rest perished in the flood that came after the door of the ark was shut. And Jesus told the story of the 10 virgins, which is the church, waiting so long for the bridegroom to come. Do you remember they all fell asleep? So when the bridegroom was heard approaching at midnight, only 5 were ready. 5 had to go to market to buy more oil for their lamps. When they got back, the door was shut. So, this is something, whatever the cost may be, how precious the eternal reward for those who refuse the mark of the beast will be. John sees in Revelations 24 thrones in heaven, and on those thrones, reigning with Christ, he sees the souls of those that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus and for the word of God, who had not worshipped the beast. Now, when we said about not buying and selling, being able to buy and sell, we, at the minute, the vaccinations are not compulsory, but we can see the vaccination passport has been formed and is being trialled out now. And of course, we will end up in a situation where there's a reason why they're producing these passports. That, I guess, that's why I'm always saying to people, stock up, prep up, because if you're not allowed out your house and you can't go to the shops, then at least you've got something to keep going.
Absolutely.
And I really, as I say, there's not one of those people what we've mentioned that actually really talk about it from a biblical perspective and how we're supposed to turn back to God. And it's very, very easy for people who have a Scientology background or Muslim background or Jewish background and so on to actually be able to quote from the Bible. That's not a big thing. The proof is in the pudding. It's what you produce, the fruits that you bear. And I the likes of David Icke and the rest, they talk about this Gaia. And this is all the New World Order
It
stuff.
is the one world. You mentioned one world under one sanctum. Anything. It really is. It really is. And what was it now? The project. He even my friend sent me a video. He did a video and he put in there of Flynn. General Flynn, and he was giving this speech. It sounded very courageous, upbeat speech. And for all the Q followers, and he mentioned the Project for a New American Century, and it reminded me of when Bush mentioned, when he literally said the words "one world order." Remember, we've got a good chance at this new world order. And do you remember that video? I think that was in 1991 when he said that in the front of the Senate or whatever it was, in front of Congress. Oh, the UN. Sorry, when he's at the UN. Yeah. And we've got a good chance at this new world order. And Flynn just comes out and said, we somewhere along the lines, not word for word, don't quote me, but we've got a good chance at this project for a new American century. And I was like, wow, okay. Just said that like that, just like that. And, even Ike's been going on about that. Again, one of the truths that he speaks. But, it really sent the shivers up me. But interesting story, Karen. When I was in Germany and everybody kept texting me saying, it's locked down, isn't it? It's locked down. I went, no, the parks are full. People are enjoying themselves. And it's actually fun. Yeah, you're wearing masks in the shops and everything. This was mid-November. No, second week in November. I was in a place near Kruger Park in Essen. And I went to the spa because it was closing. It was closing because of the COVID. They said, well, we are going to close eventually. So I went there and went up to the sauna. And this was so funny. And I said to my partner, this isn't a pandemic. It's hilarious, really. There was at least 25 Germans all stood naked around the sauna waiting to use the shower. And then before they all clambered into this sauna, which was like an auditorium, right? So I'm this little pale, British guy walking in, a little bit inferior, because I haven't worked out in about 2 years, Caroline. And I go through and I start talking to this woman who was a classical musician from Vienna.
Oh, so they're naked, both male and female?
Everything. beer and all, everybody, all ages, all sizes, didn't care two hoots. Neither did they care about COVID. And I mentioned, I said, does COVID bother you? It's like, yeah, but, if there was a virus in you, it would be killed off, wouldn't it? It's like, 90 degrees now and you're 97 degrees. I was like, okay. So we got talking, and she mentioned her daughter. We got talking because she was vegan and everything, who was then on universal credit. She lost her job just after she came out of uni, and she's now on universal, and it's being trialed, a universal credit in Germany. And I went and Googled it just after I left there, the following morning actually. And yeah, they're doing a 2-year trial in Germany on, I think it's like, I don't know how much it is. I think it's the equivalent of about $1,400 a month, something like that. And they're trialing it. So they're going to take about 1,000 people, trial them. And for a fact, that's not a trial. It's what they want, And they're doing all sorts here as well, the job seekers, and I think it's all. I don't know all about it, but I know there's a lot of changes involved in that. So when you say about, the food shortages, the no job, no jab, no job, and all that, like in Pimlico now, there's plumbers. There's a company I read this morning, there's a plumbing company in Pimlico that said, even to our staff, if you've not got the jab, you're not keeping your job. And to anyone else applying, if you don't get the jab, you don't got the job. And it's quite clear where
it is Pimlico Plumbers. Isn't that guy who runs it Charlie somebody or other?
Oh, right, I don't know. No, I don't know who runs it, love. I just saw the Pimlico Plumbers. You're right, yeah. And it was
he
showed
was
a few
big
of the
in
fans.
the referendum. I think he.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was for Remain, I believe.
Oh, right, okay, interesting that.
He was on TV all the time.
Well, very interesting why they chose to use that company then, isn't
exactly.
it? Very interesting. I thought why this random plumbing company? They just happened, you know what I mean? So, all right, then there we are. You've added another dimension to that, Caroline. There we go. So, yeah, and it's just clear where, they're trialing different people. Like I said, a friend of mine who was working in big events in London, loved his £100 lunches. He'd love to go out, stay in the nice hotels. Single guy, he could do it, fair enough, spending his own money, what he wants. But he's now working 2 days a week in Amazon. And he's claiming bits and bobs here and there. He's stuffed, and he still calls me a conspiracy theorist whenever I message him. So there's no saving some people. So, and that's where it's that gradual changeover, that shift, and this is why cryptocurrencies are going to rally for the next 2 years, because they want to harvest that energy. They want to bring everybody's energy and excite everybody, because like money, like cash, I hate saying it's got no value, because, yeah, you could spend £50,000 and have a life-saving operation. So I don't like to say money's valueless and has no value, but technically money doesn't anymore, and the cryptocurrency doesn't really. It's nothing. It's only what value we give to it. And they're going to create that value and getting everybody's excitement, everybody's greed over to the blockchain, because they're going to have cryptocurrencies that are going to go up 50 times. And say, I just turned my little £500 into 25,000. I couldn't have done that in the national savings or premium bonds or whatever. So you're then hooked. You're then onto the grid. I'm going to move my money then. It's something about blockchain, no problem. I'll just get that on, and I've got to set this account again. It's got to scan my retina, and it's got to ask for all my details. But that's okay. I'm making lots of money, and then that's how they get.
Don't you think it's just like another Matrix?
Another dimension, that's exactly it. And I think it's their version where we need to ascend to the fifth dimension. This is where our souls, regardless of why you think you're here or the purpose or what have you, it's quite clear. And this is what I call my old edge. The fund I had was 5D trading, and it was probably jinxed. That's why it didn't work out. And it's all about ascension to the fifth dimension. And I think they're paralleling that with their own version of that, and that's just the fourth industrial, a new version of this Matrix fourth dimension. They're going to create a parallel to it, and it will be just a cloud. And I tell you exactly what they want is a show on Netflix. I stopped watching it because it was just getting on my nerves. I think it's called Uploaded or Updated or something. It's a young lad, he dies, but he doesn't truly die. He has a chance of still remaining in the afterlife because they've updated all his data to the cloud so his consciousness can live on. And his girlfriend wants to do that. And it goes into all that anyway, but that's what I think they kind of want, because he didn't buy insurance, so he didn't really die. He's actually dead, but he can buy insurance to stay alive, but he will be on the other side, so it's a separate dimension. It's very weird, but it's kind of their playbook, if you like. And he actually died in an automatic driverless car. That's the irony. That got hacked by someone. So
this is the future.
That's what they want. That's what they want.
You talk about the insurance side and liabilities, but it's really interesting that I was talking to a guy who was in one of the livery lodges. Well, he still is in one of the livery lodges in London yesterday. Very, very, very clever bloke. And he gives advice to people like Trump, believe it or not.
Okay.
And but he likes to chat with me. I don't know why, because I really don't. But anyway,
you're glorious, Caroline.
It's what?
That's why you're a bathe of light. That's why, Caroline.
Well, he said that, if you have coronavirus put as a cause of death on the death certificate, the doctor's professional indemnity policy will not pay out.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I think, did you note this on one of your statuses? You were asking the question, does it apply or something to an insurance policy? Was that you that posted that?
I did ask. He said that life insurance and pensions should still pay out. Yep, there wasn't a problem there.
Oh, right.
So for anybody who's wondering why I haven't got back to them, I've really, what I'm trying to do now, as much as possible, because I've built up quite a absolute fantastic group of people on my timeline with so much knowledge.
The comments suggest that as well. I've noticed that I only went through the comments on the last video. I didn't do it for the first two, but the last video, some really good people commenting, actually. Really good.
And they're now educating each other as well. So because I have these long chats, I had a 3-hour conference call with Australia yesterday, and then other people who really need my time as well. So I'm trying now to put something thought-provoking up there. And yes, sometimes it is obtuse, and yeah, it's probably the teacher in me. It's getting people to think. I'm not the typical person like all these people we've mentioned this morning who are going to say what they want you to believe. I want people to think, research, chat to each other and get some sort of consensus. And that is far more empowering for people.
See, that's why, Caroline, that's why I like having these chats with you. That's exactly it. You empower other people. You don't want to become the saviour or the all-encompassing arbiter of the new world, like these people are trying to portray themselves or say that they are in one direct way or another. You're empowering people to make their own decisions, thought-provoke, that's the teacher in you, you're right, which is good, and they're getting that across. And again, for people that will watch a lengthy hour video and really grab it and obtain the knowledge, pass it on, help others in the comments, and not really care if they're coming across like they know it all. They're prepared to say, I didn't know that. You know what? Oh, that's interesting. That's where it is. And I've seen a lot of that on these people's videos as well that I have watched, not lately because I haven't got the time, but going back 6 months, 12 months, 2-3 years. Oh yeah, I know. Like Charlie Ward was doing it with Roy Davis when he had the chat. Roy Davis was given hounds of knowledge because in that section with the American politics, he does know a lot. Some of it is theorized. Whether it will pass, I don't know. But Charlie Ward would just nod and go, yeah, I know that. Yeah, I know that. Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I know, yeah. And you could tell he didn't. Just say now and again, just once, go, oh, right, I didn't know that. So what do you mean by that then? Just say it. It's quite empowering.
What's the point of interviewing somebody if you know it all? Why don't you just do your own monologues if you really do know it all?
Exactly. So, but this is why this is good with you, Carl, and I won't do this with many people. I did message Mark Devlin, actually, a few months back. Bless him, he sent me some lengthy messages back, saying he was feeling down and whatnot and feeling a bit pissed off with everything. And he said, look, we might have a chat in the future, but he said at the minute, I'm a bit down with it all. Whether or not it was because I didn't have a big channel or whatnot, I don't know, I don't care. But again, he's all right, he's quite genuine. But I'll go back just briefly, Caroline, because I know you time and everything. I'd sent that letter to Nicky Thomas, and because I'm living in the north now, he said he he won't. He can't reply to it. I sent that. I
Do you want
tagged
to
you in it.
explain to everybody what your letter was about and who Nikki Thomas is, please?
So basically, so I grew up in a town in Wales, small town in Wales, basically, and it was the same town as Nikki Thomas, the MP for Torfaen in Wales, South Wales, and he's now the Shadow Home Secretary as of April 2020. Took over from Diane Abbott, who again obviously had to serve and kiss the Queen's hand or whatever when she joined the Privy Council, when she was sort of sworn in, if you like. There was a bit of a thing, I think, in 2016 about that she was not going to do it. Then she did it, and then she sort of phased out. Then I think, just changing tack slightly, she, as much of an idiot as she comes across, I think she's genuinely deep down good. I'll say it now. And I reckon she found out a lot of bad things in 2016 that she wasn't aware of before, and I think it sent her loopy. I know she's not the brightest, like, with the maths and all. It was just, it's a joke, really. It's beyond. It's just imbecilic almost. But I do believe generally deep down she's a good person, and that's what I think. And I think she found out a lot of horrendous things, and I think it just sent her over. That's what I'll say with that. Now, Nikki Thomas, played football with him a few times. We used to play out by his mum's house in the backyard, led onto a big car park. We all used to play football. He played with us quite a few times. He's only 2 years older than me, actually. And since he's become Shadow Home Secretary, I thought, right, you know some stuff now, and you've got a bit of clout. So I thought, I'm going to write you a big letter. I put it as an open letter on Facebook. I used some templates. 70% of it was my own words. I used some templates with, figures and the Anthony Eden stuff, the Pfizer, quite a few templated questions that have been put out on Facebook as well.
And you mentioned my common purpose slides, didn't you? That's the letter.
Now that was for me, and I mentioned the withdrawal agreement as well, which is, forget about that now, but the common purpose one is the big one for me. And that's something he really can try and find out what happened with, because he's there, he's Shadow Home Secretary, he's MP for a county in Wales. I'm not being funny, you can find out. So I asked him this, and just before they broke up for the end of the year, I think the 15th, 16th, got a call from his office, bearing in mind I'd sent this on the 30th of November. So look, we've got your letter, Nicky's been busy up in Parliament, he's coming home, you'll answer your letter before Christmas. But great, thank you. Thanks for getting back to me and letting me know. That's really good. Didn't get back to me. I left him a voicemail. It was either yesterday or the day before. I think it might have been Wednesday. Calling saying, look, what's going on? I was told I would get a reply before Christmas. I haven't. It's now well over 4 or 5 weeks. Can let me know. Within 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I got an email off Nick saying, whether it was off him, I don't know. He'd signed it off. It was off him. Sorry, reasons why I can't reply to this because you're not in my parliament, going against parliamentary procedure.
That's what I was saying to you earlier.
Exactly what you said, and that's what prompted me to think of that then. And I thought, right, okay, fair enough. Bearing in mind, all my family's in Wales, my daughter lives in Wales and whatnot. So I've got 6 people now in the county to say that they will, in different templated formats, send a letter to him on a particular date. So next Wednesday, Thursday, he's going to get about 6 letters instead of having to deal with the one. So I've trimmed it down a little bit. I've took out the withdrawal agreement stuff. I've taken out a few other questions that we all know answers to now. But I've asked him mainly about this new variant. Now, this new variant, I want to know how that's come about, and how, taking into account that most people that take this test are at home. They go through a drive-by commercial testing centre in a car park in the town centre, right? They're not asked any questions about where they've been, who they've been isolated with and whatnot. And a PCR test they're using, or a rapid test, that conclusively now we know doesn't work. Carrie Mullis said itself. He died in August, 6 months before the pandemic. And draw any conclusions from that you like. And that's all we're going off. So how have they found this new strain when they're looking for another strain? And that brings me to something else which I'm going to touch on very briefly, and I'll talk about it more with you next time, Caroline, because I'm going to do a video on it next week. And I think it's going to blow a few minds, to be honest. Because everybody's missing something here, and there's not been one video done on it, not anyone's spoken about it, and they haven't mentioned anything. And I'll just say here right now, this was a documentary in 2011 outing something about another virus, and they're doing exactly the same thing with COVID, exactly the same thing, on how they're taking specific proteins and they're just they're scaling what they want, and they're upping. I won't say too much because I want to do the video first, and I'll talk to you about the video once a few people have seen it, right? So you can hold me to that one. Now, Nikki, this video, this letter, I'd emphasised on the common purpose. I said, look, I'm writing to you as the Shadow Home Secretary more so. The people's welfare and security and safety are your first concern in the UK, essentially. Not technically, because he's sworn an oath to the Queen and the Crown, really, right?
And
but
it's
on the
a corporation.
Exactly. So that's where they've got us. But he should be even on the outside showing on the periphery or whatever that he should be looking out for the people's best interest. So there's no reason why he can't say, yeah, common purpose meeting went ahead, or that was taken out of context, or this, that, and the other. So I want some clarity there. That's all.
That would be good. I think a lot of people would like that. Some clarity on the common purpose meetings. Matt, we've come to the end of the session. Thank you so much for giving up your valuable time to join us today. And I'd like to say thank you to everybody at home. Please do share this video. It's Caroline Stevens Seeking the Truth. I hope that people are understanding a little bit more now about where I'm coming from with what I'm thinking about, how the government is acting. And just to finish off with, I did see Matt Hancock being interviewed a couple of days ago, and it was on Sky News, and the presenter was asking him, he said, Matt, can you confirm or confer with these people who've said, in your cabinet, they think that we'll be out of lockdown by Easter or May? And he said, and Matt Hancock just looked at him and said, but I'm the health secretary. And I just thought, wow, between him and Doris, they think they are kings. They really, really do. And, it really hurts to see. And even people like Theresa May didn't act in this way. The men have really got a big ego boost from what they're doing. And, and going back to this Noah, he only saved 8 people. God only saved 8 people from that ark. And somebody once said to me, and when you say about the alternative media and fifth columnists and what have you, if these people don't actually turn to God, they you could think of it, if you're saying about people from different dimensions, they've been put here to take our attention away from God. And that's why it's so important to have that discernment. Matt, thank you so much. It's sunny for once this week.
And I'm going to try and get out to the park for an hour, Caroline, with the little one. Get some biophotons in. But thank you again, Caroline. I've got to keep saying it. You've been an absolute trooper through this period. You haven't let up one bit. And keep doing what you're doing, my love. I admire you, and I think you're great. I'm not trying to blow puffs up your behind. I'm really not. I don't have to say it, but you really are. I've got your back.
Thank you. Thanks to everybody. Please share. It's Caroline Stevens Seeking the Truth. And there's always somebody sends me a message. There's a little button on the Facebook, and it says finish on the bottom right hand corner. And when people send a message, that bubble always goes over the finish button. So goodbye.
If anyone wants to jump on the YouTube, I did set up a new YouTube channel. It's called War Room Wales, just in case anyone wants to jump on. So I will be putting some videos up in the next couple of weeks.
That's your YouTube channel now, War Room.
Yeah,
War Room Wales.
All one word, WRW, War Room Wales, yeah.
Not so easy to say. I hope this isn't sort of Chichilian.
No, not at all, not at all. It was just an idea from a friend. I'm only putting a few videos up on it, but I'm going to do that one about the virus thing. I'm going to put that up because I feel compelled I have to put that up because I've done snippets of it 8 months ago before we started even our first couple of chats at the start of lockdown, Caroline. I'd done it all then, so I've got like a storyboard of it that I've had on my laptop for 9-10 months. I just want to get it up now and it's done and I can just forget about it. So yeah, that'll be done in the next week. And let's talk after this inauguration, Caroline, and see what the effects are. Let's see if the old roof comes down. Let's see. It's going to be interesting, as we keep saying.
All right, you take